welcome. So it is 6:04. I guess we'll kick this off as more people come in. We've got people from all over the country tuning in today. So we want to welcome you to the very first conversation on Dreamocracy in America. And I'm wearing a top hat because a top hat, I think, represents dreamocracy or some Dickensian, industrial revolution, or a magic hat. So it represents a lot of things. And also, if you look at a lot of photos of Native Americans are wearing the top hat. So there we go. We kind of like to weave it all in. That was the genesis of this whole project. But anyways, we're excited because we'd originally planned to do some podcasts, and then as things got really crazy and surreal, we said we need to have these conversations now. And there's people doing really amazing work that we need to get their message out now because later is too late. Tomorrow is too late. So it all has to happen now. And so to give you a little background on what Dreamocracy is that Democracy in America was a book that Alexis de Tocqueville, a Frenchman, wrote in the 1830s. He visited the United States in 1831, and he spoke to a lot of people in the U.S. at that time, which was basically east of the Rockies and or the Mississippi, maybe even. But there are a lot of people he didn't talk to. So he talked to mainly landed white Anglo dudes, and so we said, well, there's a lot of people he didn't talk to. We're going to talk to those people. We're going to talk to women. We're going to talk to dreamers. We're going to talk to immigrants. We're going to talk to Native Americans, the LGBT community, prisoners, etc. Everybody who is fighting hardest to defend democracy right now. They're the most at risk. They're losing their rights. And looking at all the people in this chat, they look a lot like you. And so you guys are on the front lines of Dreamocracy, which is the solution to what we need to do to save this noble experiment. But it's happening in pockets of resistance and creation all over the country, whether we're talking about Pine Ridge, whether we're talking about the tar sands, whether we're talking about reproductive freedom. Everybody is coming up with their own fight. So how do we make that a national movement? How do we bring artistic expression and strategies to the fore to really make that a winning proposition? And so we've identified some people for the course of our conversations that are already doing it, that have been doing it, that have been pioneering it. And we're going to have these conversations every Friday in April at 6 o'clock today. We're going to have Kristina Wong, Kristina Wong. And then we're going to have Guillermo Gomez Peña, legendary performance artist, next Friday. Herbert Sequenza from Culture Clash, the Friday after that. And then Robert Lopez, also from the Zeros, punk rock innovator, but also Elvis, not an impersonator, Elvis translator, the hardest migrant working man in show business. So we think that's going to be a good start to this conversation to see what they're doing, how we can connect them with what you all are seeing and doing, and how we can normalize dreamocracy and not this whatever crazy chaotic stuff that we're seeing every day. So we're going to get this conversation started. And let's introduce Kristina Wong. She is a solo performer, comedian, performance artist. She has had several really exciting plays. Wong Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest dealt with mental illness. The Wong Street Journal dealt with her going to, was it Uganda? To do a rap record down there. And her latest one is the Kristina Wong for Public Office, which chronicles her actual quest to gain a public office. And she was elected to a position in Koreatown. So whereas Yang had the Yang Gang, she had the Wong Throng. It was what, 73 people voted?
72.
72 people.
They're right. If you include myself, yes.
Okay, so 73 people can make a difference.
72.
Well, we got to include you. You got to.
No. 72 includes me.
Oh, it does. Okay, so 72. That's all it took. Makes a difference. Votes. And you're like many people in the country and performers especially. In the past couple of weeks, Kristina had a national tour for that. And she was going to actually be here in Orange County at Chapman tomorrow, but all that disappeared, like gone, like most of you are probably seeing. So really thankful that you're coming to talk to us, to bring you to the country, to the world. And you also did what we want to talk about is the radical Cram School.
All right, but let's answer the phone because my mother insists on calling, even though she knows this happened. Let's put her on speaker. Hi, Mommy.
Hi.
Hi.
saw that you got 1,050 pleated masks.
Yeah.
There you go. So how about for the
Mommy, I texted you that I'm doing a conversation right now.
Oh,
live on
sorry.
Zoom, and you're on speakerphone. You have anything to say to people?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a great job. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, that's okay. Thanks for. All right. That's my mother. She's part of my sweatshop now.
Yeah, and she frequently you frequently call her during your performances, don't you?
Sorta. I mean, she likes the shows where I don't mention her, but yeah, she just kept calling and bothering me. Like not bothering me. I guess it's calling me and bothering me are synonymous with how I interpret these things. And I said, "Hey, you can sew," and she was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should." And now she's getting all her friends organized, but it's a lot of work to organize my mother and her friends.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's fine. I'll take it. I need the labor. Right now. This is the great irony of what this has all come to. Is well, now I'm jumping ahead. I'm an out of work artist who runs a sweatshop, making face masks because our medical system is so messed up, and government is dropping off broken masks to hospitals. And here I am, a performance artist, trying to command a fleet of other artists to sew masks, and my mother and a lot of children.
So you went from acclaimed, nationally touring, international recording star / performer to sweatshop owner in like days.
Yeah, no, 10 days. So 10 days ago, my whole approach to this thing was like, yes, I was panicking. I literally was doing a show in Sacramento, and it was such a weird show to drive up to because the show the next day in Santa Cruz was already canceled. And I felt like I was like sort of driving off a cliff as I was like, what are we doing? How are we going to modify all these things where I shake hands with kids and stuff? And literally like 20 minutes before the show ended, I guess all the students in the audience got a text saying, campus is closing tomorrow. We're going online. And that whole drive home was insane because I just kept getting push notifications. Tom Hanks has it, and now there's this big spike, and now this is going to happen. And yeah, I mean, it literally felt like we were driving back to LA, but back to the apocalypse. And I spent the first few days just like in my underwear watching all the scary movies about this, like Steven Soderbergh's what was it? Is it Contagion? I can't remember. I've watched them all at this point. And then I started to advocate for toilets for homeless people in my neighborhood because I was like, I refuse to feel powerless in the situation. So let me help some people who can't find a toilet. So I got 2 portalets put up in Koreatown, and that sort of happened because our city council is all working from home. So someone accidentally CC'd me on an email, and I kind of used that to my advantage to get this toilet. And then I started collecting quarters so they could do laundry. And and then that ballooned into me helping these Korean homeless seniors. There's all these homeless. I live in Koreatown, and there's all these, and I'm also an elected rep there. And they're all like 35 seniors. This is sort of this quiet crisis who are living in a shelter. And they don't have a laundry machine. And right now it's really hard for them to access food because everyone's running around panicked and there's no resources. So I did a bunch of inadvertent fundraising for them. So they're getting a new washer dryer. So I felt like the Price is Right showcase showdown where I like gave these seniors a washer dryer. Then someone sent me an article about how there's a shortage of masks. And I was like, hey, that's actually a skill I have. Because my whole life as an artist, I've been reminded that I'm useless by the elite. And suddenly I have this one skill that we should all have from home ec, but for some reason I'm learning a lot of people don't, is that I can make 2 pieces of fabric stick together. So I started sewing masks just for a few friends here and there. And I did a very like offering Zen-like thing where I was like, just reimburse me for postage. And then now it's ballooned into me leading an army of over 100 people who volunteer in different capacities. This includes children and now my mother and all her friends. And it's a fucking nightmare. And I can't wait for us to be obsolete and for the factories to take over. But in the interim, This is where I am. I am the American dream. I can be the granddaughter of garment workers, and only to return to that by public health, the great equalizer.
Well, that makes you like the Florence
That's my
Nightingale of the masks, you know?
Was that?
You're like the Florence Nightingale of the masks.
I've been told Rosie the Riveter.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Or, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to be a hero right now, but I feel like when you are getting emails from nurses who are like, we're scared to go to work because we might die, like, why would you be like, oh, that's too bad, and go back to watching Netflix? No, you're going to get on a sewing machine and you're going to sew and create that one last resort barrier so that they don't get sick, because if they get sick, we're all going to go get sick. You know, so that's what this is right now. This is not me. I'd be nice if a MacArthur Genius panel was so moved by this that when this is all over, they hand me an award, but that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because this is my human duty to other humans, and because my health is your health right now, and I have no choice in this situation, and we're all in the same play right now, and the exit doors are locked. We can't walk out of this early. We can't buy our way out of this. You know, we are in this together. And so whether we like each other or not, we have to figure out how to help each other so we don't all get sick and die. And that's what this is.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of the people on the front line who are doing the heroic work are people that were, you know, especially in the last 3 years under this administration, really, you know, crapped on. You know, you're talking about the people working in the hospitals, women and people of color, the people that are working in the grocery stores, you know, minimum wage workers, the people working in the fields, undocumented immigrants. They're the ones that are saving the country because they're doing what you did. They have to show up at work because they can't. If they can't, everything grinds to a halt. But in the movie, they're going to be played by Bruce Willis or somebody, you know.
Oh yeah, I know. In the movie about this, I'm going to probably be played by ScarJo or whatever. But like the crazy thing is, so the group that I've loosely created, which became this thing, we're going to get a logo soon. Someone's donating a logo to us, which I'm like, is the Auntie Sewing Squad is the name of our group. I didn't realize till a few days ago that the acronym is ASS. No one has pointed it out to me because I think we're just so tired. We have no time for fucking cheap jokes. But anyway, so we're literally aunties. We're a lot of us are Asian women over 40, and it's bringing up some weird ancestral shit right now for us to be sewing, because a lot of garment workers around the world, 80% of garment workers around the world are women of color, right? And they're exploited, and and their work is unacknowledged, and we're treated as expendable. And I'm having many moments where I'm reminded that my grandmother and grandfather came to San Francisco, had a laundry, and did alterations. And for some of the people on our team who are volunteering, they were like, yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I would help my mom with piecework and sewing the loose threads off of pieces, because they're doing that right now for free. Right. And when I get inquiry, and you know, I do this because it's necessary, but occasionally I get inquiries which make me feel like my time is expendable, and it stings in a way that is super deep, right? That it's like, you're just turning these out and doing this for free, right? Because you have all this time. And I'm like, this is so disrespectful. Like, you have to understand that, like, I had a life too, and I still have a life, despite it being in quarantine. And you know, that when you ask for an obscene amount of masks that I can't even give to a nurse right now, what you are asking is for one of my volunteers to work through the night to sew 6 masks while you watch Netflix, just so you can go to the grocery store and wear it for an hour. And you know, so it's bringing up weird, crazy shit, but it's bringing up like the value and the invisibility of women's labor right now. And I'm like feeling that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm trying to be happy about it, but I'm like, I'm like doing the research and development for a new show, if theater ever exists again. Just about like, oh wow, you can create an empire, a fucked up sweatshop empire in 10 days to mirror this fucked up American empire that has all these holes. Oh, and I'm going to tell you a crazy story. Is someone messaged me because a certain hospital in LA got a shipment of masks. And I'm not allowed to say which hospital, but I can tell you this is likely happening at every single hospital in America. So the federal government deployed these masks, and the masks or must be so old or whatever that the elastic is so brittle that the masks were falling, the N95s are falling off people's faces. And so the doctors were like trying to tie the tourniquet rubbers around their face to kind of keep this mask on. And the doctor was like asking someone else, do you have 4th inch black elastic? You know, can you find someone? And that day I had my friend Skip, who was on my team, go down to the garment district to this one store that was still open by this guy who's supposedly Republican, but it doesn't even matter anymore, right? And I'm sure we'll set up and we give it to these groups who are sewing masks so they don't have to do this. People fucking cutting up their bras and shit, and not in a like feminist, like bra burning way to make these masks. So anyway,
but I think it's like a genetic encoding. Your response, you're genetically encoded.
Yeah, sir. I guess, like, I like to joke that I'm the sweatshop overlord, because like that's the stereotype, is the sweatshop overlord is crazy Chinese woman. And then I'm like, oh my God, my ancestral destiny is coming alive during the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And now I'm enslaved to my mother and her friends.
My background is Mexican. And my background is Mexican, and you put a border in front of me, I'm going to cross it. I'm just like instinctively going to cross it, you know. I could be doing so. I could be going to Trader Joe's, the border, I'm going to cross it. It's just the way it is. But it's good that you have those skills, and it comes from that experience, you know, the American experience. And again, when we're talking about like, what does it mean to be an American?
Oh, no.
We thought we were so, I mean, tomorrow is the anniversary of Martin Luther King's death, right? And we thought during Obama's years, oh, we've really come a long way. We've accomplished a lot. We're going to go farther. And then it all went away. Like right now, you know, they're talking about suspending, being able to arrest people indefinitely without a charge. You know, that's just insane. So how do we respond to that as artists, as Americans, to say, no, this is our country. We're not going to normalize this, and we're going to have fun and make you laugh until you change.
I don't know. I'm so mad right now that I can't. I'm just like for me, I always felt like as an artist, there's a certain grief cycle of like that I see my work, the impetus for my work coming from, that you see something angering and you don't live in that anger, but you imagine like, what does that time comedy, that tragedy plus time that equals the comedy? Like there's no space right now. I'm like running up and down outside. I'm meeting volunteer sewers in my house. I'm throwing fabric into their car. Are we being bombed? What's this? Oh, this is your co-host. Okay, hi,
Pocha.
I'm like, what is this?
Hello, how are you?
Someone in a hat.
Man, shit's
I'm
bad
okay.
when
I'm
performance
angry and I'm talking fast.
saving America.
I'm saving America with elastic. I'm a reporter that's saving America.
Yes, you're the elastic that's holding us together.
I mean, a lot of it is just saying this out loud constantly, what we're experiencing, right? And not holding it in. And I think for me, that's one thing that's helping me get through this, is to like just spew out loud, just like on Facebook, and just like beef with you. Like, this is crazy. I could talk to my mom today because I've been screaming at her every time she tries to call. She's my mother. She gave birth to me. Why am I screaming at her? And like, I'm mad that she's trying to find me workers for my sweatshop. This whole situation is ridiculous. And like, people are like, hey, Auntie Kristina, look, my kid is sewing, and they're not in my team yet. And I'm like, give me that child. Like, what is it turning me into? So I don't know. There's some humor, this ironic humor that this terrible situation has turned me into the exact same person that I say that I won't be. Like someone who's suddenly running a non-union sweatshop that employs children and senior citizens, and I'm yelling at my own mother, you know, like, this is terrible. Like, all I can do is like laugh out loud, like, isn't this stupid? What the fuck is
if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Right?
So when you started out as an artist, did you kind of say to yourself, I'm going to do this so I'll never have to be a sweatshop owning, you know, whatever?
Yeah, well, I did it because I was like, well, I can't afford therapy, so I'll make people pay to watch me talk to them. If I can't pay someone else to listen to me talk, we'll just sort of flip it in that Chinese way and make them, you know, how can now I make money off this? So in a very naive way, with all my trauma that I was sort of working out, I guess now I'm gathering trauma that I'm going to spend the next fucking 20 years working out from this fucking 10 days of running a sweatshop. You know, I was like, I'd watch solo performers working out the pathos on stage, and I was like, I love this. I want to that's how I want to work this out. So that was sort of the original intent. But it was also like this like, how can I take my shit and give it to other people and make it kind of enjoyable? And it's like, ah. So right now, I guess in the rough part of it where I don't know what's funny anymore because I'm so obsessed.
It's all funny.
I'm so
It's all absurd.
Elastic. Like I've never had this many conversations about non-propylene plastic in my life, but that's what's happening. That's what happens when you become a factory.
So how can people help Kristina Wong? How can they be part of this revolution that you started?
Okay, one, if you sew, I need you. Join the Sweatshop. Two, if you're sitting on a shitload of elastic, bias tape, or 100% cotton fabric, contact me. I will find people who can sew it. If for some reason you're sitting on all these sewing things, but you don't know how to sew, I don't know why that would happen. Give it to me. It's different than, see, this is the weird thing I've learned about. It's like in a show production, you rehearse, you do the production, and it's over. But in a factory production, it's like I'm constantly acquiring the materials and then sending it out as fast as I can to sewers. And then acquiring it again and sending it out. So I just because I was just like, I think I sound crazy. And then I finally was like, oh, this is what it's like to run a production. It's unending. Yeah. It's like, just because I had a bolt of fabric and sent it out doesn't mean it's done. We're trying to make up for like hundreds of millions of masks that are not available right now. So it's just a constant flow of give it to me. Okay, who wants to take it? Give it to me. Who can sew it? Give it,
It's a mind-boggling need, especially to be a first world country. And I mean, we have here in Orange County, the OC, supposedly super wealthy, and we have OC Health, like the health agency is actually asking for donations of cleaning products, of masks, of the whole thing, we don't have nothing. It's tragic. That's happening everywhere, coast to coast.
I have nurses.
It shows just how bad it's gotten, I think.
People are showing up at my house. I can't even hold up a sample. My mask, you'd think, Kristina's sewing masks. She has all these masks. This is my first shitty mask, which is held together with, it's gotten so much better since this, but I can't hold on to a sample. That needs to be in the Smithsonian. I know. I can't even hold on to a sample because people are showing up at my house with baked goods to bribe me for my sample masks. So I don't even have samples I'm fucking holding on to. And I just heard that at one hospital, 6,000 masks went missing. People are just going in and stealing them. And now they have armed guards in a locked room guarding the masks. Like, that's crazy. Isn't that crazy? What is going on here? Like, this is...
It's America with 3 kids.
They're fucking broken masks. I'll tell you, if I just gave 4 spools of elastic, I swear there's an armed guard now probably watching that elastic. This is insane. This is insane. So okay. So that's what. So if you don't have those, if you don't have that, throw money at the situation. Because I am constantly buying fabric. I know more about fabric than I ever knew as a hobbyist sewer. I know more about patterns. And
give Kristina Wong money.
Kristina Wong. So it's give Kristina with a K, Wong money. Right now, my Venmo account is all dedicated to just like a constant influx of buying, selling, and mailing. And then if you don't have that, I realized that because my volunteers are so burnt out with and like I went 2 days on my period without putting a pad on, and I sometimes go like up until 2 o'clock. Like today I put food in the microwave and I pulled it out of the microwave 2 hours later just because I've just been so distracted. Yeah. Me and my workers, we could use food and care deliveries. So we've now developed a network of caring aunties and uncles who offer to deliver food to us. And it's not like, I actually have now an overflow of food offerings to me because I'm the one complaining about it the most. But now we have, and I can direct you to her, but you can send the inquiry to me, say, I'd love to deliver a pizza to someone, or I'd love to deliver baked goods, or I have hand solve I've made, or Reiki sessions I can do over Zoom. I have a care coordinator now. This is 10 days in, by the way, to like 12 days in. I went from me sewing on the floor, making a few masks, to now I have a care coordinator. What the fuck?
So we have somebody, Nicole said she was looking for your Venmo handle today. So we have people that want to help.
Okay.
How do they help you? What is your Venmo handle?
I'll put it in the chat. It's give Kristina Wong money. And I know it sounds really shady. I never
That's
imagined.
on Cash App too, right? That's also on Cash App. Give Kristina Wong money.
I don't know. I don't really never used Cash App, but
Okay, that is Venmo.
if you find a way to write me, I'll find a way to take your money. And
Awesome.
And make masks, save lives.
And what's the pattern that you use? Is it with a Duchess?
The Duchess is the pleated one. I know too much about patterns. We use something called the foo, which my friend asked, like, I wonder what the origins of the foo mask. Because I think it sounds we think it might be a sort of racist nod to a kung fu mask, but we're just like, oh God, we're too tired to argue.
We have Bucky
right now. But it's one that has no pleats and oh, hi doggy. And we
hey, it's little Bucky.
Hi Bucky. So we've been using the foo, but our group of aunties is using all sorts of patterns. This is the thing about these mask patterns. There is so much conflicting information out there. And at this point, I just accept that there's conflicting information out there. And the group of people who I was doing personal requests at the beginning, and I've now phased out the personal requests for masks. And now we're just focusing on essential workers. But it literally feels like the timeline that a big company has gone through in terms of now
you can run a startup now. You know how to scale.
I know, because people are writing me because they remember from 2 weeks ago. They're like, can we commission you to make a mask? And I go, no, I'm sorry. And then now I redirect those requests to a project the Garment Worker Center is doing. And now I'm head of operations. And I don't have this title, but I am the overlord at this point. And I'm doing partnerships with donors and cutters. And it's so fucking crazy, you guys. I'm not cut out for this. I'm doing it.
But now you've become the big mask maven. So what's the mask, the curved mask that you're using now? I think some people are inserting.
It's the foo. It's the foo mask with an extra third pocket.
Foo mask with a third pocket. Okay, yeah. So everybody Google that. Foo mask.
No, you can't Google it because we invented it. But that's what we're making. Well, there is a pattern.
Innovators.
With a third, but we found a pattern linked to it. But yeah, it's a foo that adds a pocket to it.
So would I just write you to get that?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not taking personal requests anymore.
No, I can help sew, but I don't have.
Oh, okay, yeah. Write me. Yeah, join. So our Facebook group, If You Sew or If You Can Give, is the Auntie Sewing Squad. So the first post on that has all the patterns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Auntie Sewing Squad.
It's already online. You can find it right now.
On Facebook, on El Face. Go to El Face and go to Auntie Sewing Squad. Mm-hmm. There's so many sewing groups now. It's really beautiful to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But I hope we could become obsolete. I honestly just want the factories to kick in. But the mayor is asking for 5 million masks to be made in LA. But if you've ever done a city contract in LA, that shit's going to take a week and a half to get set up. Then it's going to be the Wild West to get those masks. Mm-hmm. So it's
and the irony is that countries like China and Mexico probably do it for us. Traditionally, we would go to,
but customs is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And so this is okay. So this that
might be part of the problem.
Yeah, part of the thought that I never completed is we outsourced so much of this work to China and Mexico. And now us Americans who don't even know how to do basic things like sew, we're all left to grapple with this manufacturing task that we haven't touched for years. And it's kind of a profound moment, right? Where we realize how interconnected we are on manufacturing, right? And we're
yeah. And today masks, tomorrow are clothes. I mean, once we kind of pick up or reawaken those skills in the mass population, it's kind of like a step towards self-sufficiency again, and I think that's a healthy step. We really fractured our entire kind of social ecosystem in the way we have compartmentalized things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was going to reach out to the Lucha Libre community to help make masks. Unfortunately, Lucha masks have holes in all the wrong places. So not going to happen. It'd be a disaster waiting to happen. But
they can modify it.
Yeah, and you talked about trauma earlier. In your work, in your practice, you talk about that artists are generally making work through one of the 5 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so that artist statement I wrote is like 10 years old, and I feel like, so in that artist statement I wrote 10 years ago, I think I was responding to a lot of work that I was seeing at the time that felt like artists were just like in perpetual grief and just throwing their anger on stage, and it was just sort of sitting there, and it felt like it was just enacting the anger for everyone else, like, and it was just sort of agonizing to sit through. But this is also because at the time I was watching a lot of work at highways. It was just like there's a lot of work. I'm like, oh my God,
right? Whichever series you're in, that's a plus.
Yeah, and so I guess I was sort of advocating for, like, instead of presenting yourself as powerless on stage, to present from a place of power, if not a faux naiveness, right? And now I'm so confused about that artist statement because everything is just coming so fast, and no one has time to be the evolved person who's able to laugh at shit, right? Because it really is happening so fucking fast, and so I think that's what I'm sort of sitting with now is that I think right now I don't even know if I'm in grief. I think I'm in the trauma. Like I'm just sort of like constantly running up and down, and like from like in my heart, I go through a whole series of emotions all day where I'm like, all right, I'm doing it. I'm helping people. Okay, this is my task. I fucking hate everybody. And why do you make these demands of me? And why is my labor so devalued? And I hate everybody. And no, okay, I'm okay. I'm a hero again. You know, I'm just like, so, and I think that's what this time is right now on the sort of karmic levels. We're just forced to kind of sit with ourselves and our aloneness and kind of consider this empire that we created that has so many holes and flaws, and how desperate we are to find someone who can sew to save our lives, you know, and these people that we've now that it really, and like, and how much we've taken people for granted, and that there is no better job or worse job. Like, oh my God, like people that like consider those low skill jobs, like grocery workers or postal, or like any idiot. And I do this because this is not true. Any idiot can do that job. Are the people who are kicking their asses right now? The people who can sew, the people who
or the people that can pick our food. You know, like what's going to happen when they get sick? Like they're out there in some of the worst conditions, you know, using porta potties. What's going to happen, you know, when they get sick? Where will our food come from? We don't have gardens anymore. I know that just even traveling around, you know, Europe, you know, you take the train and every backyard has a little garden, has a little potager, you know. And so now it's like we're trying to, you know, retrofit this sick civilization back to being something that actually serves humanity. And I think it's folks like you and, you know, other folks that, you know, are just stepping up, right? You're stepping up and filling a void, and this is not new for you because you ran for office, and that's like a big, you know, commitment. And again, I don't think you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to run for office, I want to be a politician, but I'm sure there was a vacuum of need there, and you're like, hey, you know,
well, it was made clear
somebody's got to do it,
that nothing fucking matters, and that any idiot can run, and maybe any idiot with a better idea should run. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm learning how bureaucratic it is, how difficult, okay, once you win, then what? Then you have to deal with bureaucracy, and that's very frustrating for artists because we're so much like, fuck it, I'm going to just do it the way I do it. And you kind of have to listen to everybody as an elected rep, and you kind of have to please everybody, but you also have to figure out how to go rogue among the people who aren't doing anything. So it's its own kind of craft, and that's what I'm learning.
You're an important person that is at a step in the decision-making process. If there's somebody unsympathetic to the community in that position, they're not going to get those toilet moments. You know, it's not going to happen. They're not going to care. So every position that someone's in, and Pocha ran for office too.
Yes,
that's right.
And I was called a pinkwasher. Even though, hey, I went to a lot of trouble to pick out this pink. It's Mexican rose pink because it was a cultural statement. It was a feminist statement and a cultural statement. I got accused of pinkwashing. I'm a woman. What are you talking about? Politics is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even know what pinkwashing is, but it sounds like something you need to do to be hygienic. I just would recommend it. So, you know.
Yes.
So they accuse you of being pinkwash. That's all I gotta say.
Wait, tell everyone how your election went.
Oh man. I had like 500,000 thrown against me. I maybe had like just like tens of, maybe like 13,000, I think, or I had a very little, very compact little campaign fund that was official. But the opposition was crazy. They funneled like over 100,000 through Malaysia to attack in attack ads. They said I was like a gangster drug dealer, part of the the organized mafia, and it's like, if I was mafia, I would not be running for office. I would be off. I'd be off in freaking Cancun or someplace.
That's awesome.
you know,
those are great archives.
Instead of, because when you go into public service, I don't know if you've experienced this, but you kind of become a big target. It's kind of like, hey, here's a big target. Yeah. Shoot me. I'll send the arrows over here. And so you're working, and it really is, a lot of extra work on top of this. Performance artists as artists. It doesn't really, it doesn't help our career here. It's something.
It's worse than being a performance artist.
There's a need.
Because, I had all these right-wingers come after me after my web series, Radical Cram School. Like a concerted effort, like Alex Jones and did a whole thing on me, and all his insane followers came death threats, all this rape threats. And almost like, at first I was like, oh, I can't run. I don't want to be out more publicly. And then I was like, oh, wait. This is just the same thing, except with a title. So it kind of primes you. Like, you don't go into politics because you want to be likable.
Well, politics is performance art. It really is the ultimate performance art. So I think what better person, to have gone into that, and you just step up. It's having, I think, seeing the need to have that voice at the table, because if your voice is not at the table, then those decisions, get made in a way that don't include you, your constituency, your community. And so sometimes, shoot the arrows. I'm punk rock. I'm sure you're punk rock. So you're like, we don't care. I don't care what you think of me, but I know I need to get the job done, and I know how to do it. So, either you're going to help me or you're going to step aside.
Yeah. I think it's about going rogue too. And going, all right, like, these people are useless. These people are like this. And so, like, the biggest thing we did is, I'm on neighborhood council. This is the lowest rung of government, BTW. But because it's the lowest rung, it's so fun to go around and say I'm an elected official. And people who don't understand how low is rung, they're like, oh, and they're like, say crazy shit, but not on behalf of the neighborhood council, but as an elected official. Like, there's, it's so funny because suddenly people are like, so powerful. And so there's a little bit of that, but one of the big things we can do is we can issue, as a neighborhood council, community impact statements, which is we're an advisory committee. We can't do huge things, but I help lead this effort for us to support the abolishment of ICE. Right. And that was like a big deal. And I brought all my undocumented friends and community members to the meeting. Like, I was sobbing because, not because I'm trying to make it about me, but because it was genuinely terrifying to hear their stories during community comment. And we voted to abolish ICE. Can neighborhood council actually abolish a federal agency? No. But it was symbolic, right? And me as an artist now can go out with my platform and say, this is what we did. We voted to abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Which, is a big statement for Koreatown to say, and that was huge to have, because we got these old Korean business people, and I can't tell where their politics are at sometimes, and they voted to abolish ICE, right? And that was significant.
It looks good on a CV too, just by the way.
Yeah. I think it's an important time for politics right now. I think we're seeing a really big change in the way that political campaigns have been running. This kind of slick, if I just get the firemen and the police behind me.
Yeah.
It's in the bag. It's not in the bag anymore. I think voters are tired of being talked down to and double talked to. I mean, we supported this wonderful gentleman here, Sergio Contreras, woo, and he might be one of our first, Latino supervisors in a long time. And
he's running in November. He's on the November ballot? Is that
He's on a November ballot.
Oh.
He made the runoff in this last March election. But look, Orange County is 60% Mexican American, and on top of that, there's other ethnicities. 60%. So, and we don't have one Latino
Can I tell
supervisor out of 5. You think about that.
Turnout. Okay, so the voter turnout by ethnicity, racial group is. Asians are the worst. We flunked voting. 40.2% turnout of registered voters nationally, followed by you all at 40.4%, which is crazy.
Well, Asians are number one in Orange County,
at sucking at voting, and then it's Black folks at 50.4%, then white people at 57.5%. But we all suck. We suck at voting. Like, we're all united in how shitty we are at showing up to fucking vote.
Well, we got to get the new
we're getting better, yeah.
People out, because we're not even doing the census. I mean, with the Latino community, we're like, well, we're supposed to put Caucasian. We don't want to do that. So
talk about that. I thought there was a. What do you mean you have to check off Caucasian for you?
Yeah, Hispanic is considered Caucasian. So a lot of people are putting Native American.
Yeah.
It's a complot.
There's no Mexico. You can check off Chinese or.
Yeah. We're Caucasian. Can't you tell? Didn't you know? Didn't you know? We're Caucasian.
Yes.
As a China Supai.
But how do we get the young people to vote? Because I think you as an artist, your audience is probably skewed on the younger side. Even Bertie's audience is on the younger side, but they didn't vote. So how do we get them to vote? What would you recommend?
I don't know. I think we need a national voting day. I think we need to make voting mandatory. I think we need to put reminders on like Tinder and Grindr and whatever to go vote. Or we should shut down. This shutdown shows us like where millennial weak spots are, right? Like where they turn into big babies. So we like restrict all craft beer until they go vote, put a moratorium on it. I don't know, like.
Avocado.
In Bolivia, if you don't vote, that's where my mom's from, Bolivia. And if you don't vote, you get fined. You can't use any banking services for 3 months if you don't vote. So they have a 98% voting rate. Isn't that amazing? And that's how they got Evo Morales. But even with that, coups still happen. So, that's where they're at now.
Llamas. You can't own llamas if you don't vote.
They'll spit at you.
Yeah, they'll spit at you. But there's also a lot of subterfuge now. We talk about the amount of money that is thrown against candidates. Here in Santa Ana, the police union grows like $500,000 in each election towards candidates that are favorable to them. But there are ways to fight it. I really believe that creativity can do more than the cash. We just have to make sure that it translates into action. We also, you're talking about, Latinos and Asians are the bottom two, the worst voters. But I think we exceed Asians in cynicism. And I think that if we can harness that right now, we would say so. If we can harness the cynical vote, the ironic vote, then Latinos jump to the top. The sleeping giant will make it.
Yes. And it did. In Orange County, it did. That's how we got Sergio. So, yay. Go, Sergio.
Orange County turned all blue.
Yes, we went blue. The orange curtain.
Yeah. So if it can happen
here. So
miracles
happen. Miracles happen.
It can happen here. It can happen there.
It can happen here.
Texas,
it can happen anywhere.
I think they just need to reward you with food after. Like there are some smaller elections, like the ADEM election, which I ran and lost, which is to be a delegate for the Democratic Party. So there's no rules. Like you can bribe people with tamales, which is what we tried to do. We still lost. But put some fucking food out. Put a taco stand out there. Put ice cream stand, whatever. Like I think, and there are some companies that you show your I voted sticker, you get a free something. But
yeah, and you know what? In the last election, the Republicans were trying to scare people by saying if Hillary wins, there's going to be a taco truck on every corner. Guess what? That looks like a pretty good idea right now. Don't you wish there was a taco truck on every corner?
I do.
I do.
Yeah. So So we have the great ideas, we just have to put them in place. We got to get those young people to vote. So I don't know what it's going to take, but I think luring them with food, craft food, I think that's achievable.
I also think like Lysistrata, which is I think I'm referencing the right play, where the women go on sex strike if the men go to war. Is that the premise of that play? Anyway, the point is, like if you're single, like hold out, like you know, like say I'm not having sex till you register to vote and vote. You know?
Yeah.
And doesn't mean you still have to have sex with that person. Just
yeah,
like,
especially
vote. Like
especially registered Republican. Vote for Trump. There's a lot of people that are losing relationships because they voted for Trump.
Oh, they should. They
Yeah.
should.
There are women in America who will not sleep with guys who voted for Trump. It's like a deal breaker.
Oh yeah, totally a deal breaker. It should be built in. I couldn't even.
That's like, ew, David.
It's a litmus test of yucky. So
There we go.
So what's
I'm all fired up,
yeah.
touching my face. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, because it is a reality right now, is that there's a lot of violence against Asians happening, especially as Trump is fomenting discord and hate and whatnot. What do you see in your community? How do you address it? What's your message about that?
Well, there's yeah, that is. I think it's the first time I've experienced racism in a sense that I actually feel fearful for my safety, which is a reality that a lot of Black and Brown communities have always felt, right? Like I think Asian racism I mean, there were cases like Vincent Chin where people actually were getting physically hurt and killed, but not in the way that this is happening now. Now, usually it was sort of racist comments or I won't give you your business, or I won't hire you, or I won't promote you kind of racism. And now that is a profound shift that a lot of my friends who are Asian American are experiencing, that like and I was afraid to wear a mask on the bus because I didn't want to be looked at in a specific way. So that is something that is huge. And I think a lot of the messaging around this has to, you know, and it's interesting because I do find that people are like lifting up my mask making efforts as a counter to that. And I'm not making masks to prove myself as a good Asian or bad Asian or whatever, you know, like I'm not trying to prove myself in a specific way. I'm just doing this because at the root of it, if you know, whether you're Asian American or not, or immigrant or not, or documented or not, you hopefully have a sense of empathy in you that cares about other human beings, and that's what I'm acting on, and that's what a lot of my supporters, a lot of my aunties are older Asian women who have experienced this racism, and we're not doing this to counter that so much as that we care, and I hope people recognize that I did not bring this virus to you as sort of some revenge, as something, you know, like trying to take over the economy, become rich, and now we've deployed this virus on you. So it's a lot of like rethinking this messaging of this virus doesn't have a race. This virus doesn't fucking care who you are, and viruses don't have nationalities and races or passports. And if we can step away from that, we can tackle this problem sooner. And Trump using language like Chinese virus is not helpful. It doesn't matter where it came from, because if you do identify it as someplace where it came from, it makes it more confusing when it is already here and when it's already everywhere.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who
for the record, the Spanish flu didn't start in the U.S.
Yeah,
Like in Kansas or something.
But it's also like, it also names like Spanish flu or German measles, which is another defense people use to call it the Chinese flu.
Yeah, we're British food.
Came from the 1918. Like, why are we getting nostalgic about anything from, like, women could not vote in 1918. It's like pre-Jim Crow. Like, there's so many things that, why are we suddenly becoming nostalgic for naming it the Chinese flu because something was called the Spanish flu? This is not an era that we should try to, you know, reinvigorate with our disease naming. And it's confusing because it makes it seem like it's far away and it's not coming here soon, or that it isn't already here. So that's a lot of what this is. And I hope as artists that now I'm like, oh great. Like we have to, this is going to become an unfortunate thing. where now I have to worry about my safety in ways I never did because of a virus that that came from a bat. I mean, what it really comes down to,
supposedly.
Yeah, no, this one specifically did come from a bat, but like a lot of these flus come from the way animals are reared to eat, whether it's cows or chickens or whatever. So let's really look at that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I just don't hurt me. Stop hurting me.
I say though that you're right that it started from bat. I'm just gonna call it Batman is getting off the hook, and he's like the ultimate rage-filled millionaire white guys.
Yeah, let's beat up bats. Let's beat up bats and Batman. Let's boycott Batman. Like, come on. Like, makes no sense.
Yeah, but it's not the bat's fault. It's not the bat.
Yeah.
Batman, yes, but not the bat's fault. Because he's a fictional character. So, but so I think that, the work that you're doing is giving hope to people, and if people check out your material online, a lot of videos on YouTube from the Radical Cram School. It's really cool. It's like a children's show.
I love the guest you had with the gun, right?
Yeah, we had
very triggering.
We had an episode where it's like a Jerry Springer show, and the kids are the audience members, and I'm the host, and the audience that's introduces a gigantic puppet gun, and the kids are like, "When I turn 18, I'm going to vote against politicians and support people like or things like you," and they're all like screaming, going, like neck cranking and stuff, and telling off this gun to get out of their communities.
But it's really funny too. I mean, you do a lot with puppets. It's really got a great aesthetic.
It's like Pee Wee's Herman. It's like Pee Wee's Playhouse, but it's for a new generation.
We wanted a radical. It's hard to say the word woke anymore because suddenly that's not a good word to use. But like we went to a more radically thinking show, but also because there is a lot of radical education. It's very difficult for Asian Americans to see themselves in it, even if you're an adult or a kid. And yes, this has to center those most affected, but I think it's also important for Asian Americans to be able to understand how they fit into social justice as allies, as supporters, but also as people who now, especially now, need to protect, themselves and see themselves activated and not just like scared and hiding. Because what I am seeing in a lot of Facebook groups are people who are just genuinely frustrated and scared and don't even know how to talk about the politics of it because they've always avoided politics. But this is now a moment where you have to understand there's no way to talk about these hate crimes without understanding the politics behind it.
Yeah. Now, something that I like to ask people, especially that have that are creative and have chosen the artistic path, but also are involved with politics and with the bureaucratic governmental system, is when did you realize that the system was not there to serve you, and how did you come to react to that by just like digging in deeper?
My entire life,
they just split.
Yeah. I mean, my entire life, I think I understood these are the rules. Don't rock the people read you as quiet. People read you as studious. People read you as not a threat. It's going to be that much harder for you to. At that point, they had racial quotas in San Francisco for a certain like top name high school, like Lowell High School, for example. You have to be this much smarter than anyone else as a Chinese person. They've changed those quota systems, but I learned these are the rules. Don't question them. Use them either to figure out how you use that to your advantage or work around it. And it was anger. So I learned early on that this meritocracy. The world is not a meritocracy, or at least I think I was taught it was, but it felt clear that there were no rules. And I got kind of tired of not rocking the boat. And I think that's a very kind of Chinese thing is you just sort of understand that this is the way it is and you try to work with it. But I think usually, I think for most people it's college where you where you get a long history when you go, you know what, I've just been sort of quietly accepting that people talk to me in this specific way or see me in this way, and I can't stand it. I'm sitting on a lot of stuff that I've never spoken out about, and now I finally have a way to articulate how I feel about it. And so I think that, I mean, that's why I blew up and turned all that trauma and became a performance artist, because I was just like, the rage. But then I also learned that just screaming out rage is not healthy sometimes because you risk reenacting it, right? And
that's Batman.
It does damage to your body too.
So
know,
often as a
all that
humorist
anger.
or someone who works with humor, I go, so what's funny about this situation? And so for me right now with the Sweatshop, it's like, oh, this is how funny. I've met this ancestral destiny of becoming a sweatshop overlord. This is
Yes.
interesting. I have children. I'm screaming at children to cut for me. Okay. I'm screaming at my mother to sew faster.
Well, you know, humor is a big coping mechanism. You know,
Yeah.
we have Native American humor is hilarious for that reason. They've had to endure so much for so long. And so definitely, you know, you're a mistress of that.
Thank you, baby. Thank you.
Yeah,
Ugh.
especially today when it's so needed, because you were talking about the old adage that comedy is strategy all the time. Now we're taking time out of the equation, so it's just tragedy, you know, but it's so important right now.
We're like sitting in this moment, which is so traumatizing for a lot of us. I don't even know if you know, we can't acknowledge right now, but this is traumatizing. This is insane to not be able to interact and people, you know, I have no income, and people are going to lose their businesses. We are in trauma right now, so it's hard for me to be like, all right, folks, all right, joke. Like, I can kind of reflect on it in these brief little windows, but right now, I'm collectively traumatized.
Yeah, if we check in 4 weeks from now or 4 months from now, I don't know if we'll still have internet to have this conversation, you know. But I have a suggestion, because I think that as people are home and they still do have internet, it's important to write your congressional representatives, make that your job. Every time Trump says something or you see something you don't like, instead of complaining on Facebook, go to your representative website and drop them an email about what makes you angry, what you want to see change. Be part of that. Well, you know, see it and say it enough. You know, you're going to get good at it. So I strongly recommend that everybody that's listening, get your congressional representatives on speed dial, because there's crazy stuff that they're proposing. It's just way too fast for us to respond to. We need all hands on deck.
Can I tell you about this toilet thing and how that plays into me, how I got portalets in Cape Town? Right now, a lot of people are working from home, and if you can get a hold of just like 1 or 2 people and some of them have their cell numbers, get on them. Like, be that annoying bitch that keeps texting, going, "Where's my toilet? Why haven't you cleaned my toilet? Why haven't you cleaned the portalet?" Like, they will respond, and
yes,
you really do have to just find them and
yeah.
this. And, you know, you don't harass them, but like, you know, just be persistent, and come from a place of like, we really need to do this, because that is their job, to listen to you. But don't get all, I think sometimes we get carried away with it because we're so used to not being listened to that we stage these crazy like scorched earth protests where we can never be friends again, you know. My advice is don't do that you know, like, but once you get a hold of somebody, don't vilify them, but
and I think that as performers, and this is the advice that we give people when dealing with the city, is don't look at it as you're just going like to fight the city hall. Use it as a performance. So if you look at it and figure out what's your audience, what's motivation, what's the goal you want to get, what's the impact you want to have, and then create a character to address them. If you are mad at your council person because there's no toilet, and you say, I'm sick of this and this pollution stuff, but if you come up and you sound like Morgan Freeman, you know, that's really tough. You know, then like you better. You know, so think of that as a performance when you talk to your representative.
Also, just, you know, everybody look up your local, you know, whatever city you're in, look up the website, see who your representatives are for your area, because as a you know, a resident, you are entitled to representation. And if things are happening, your voice is not being heard, you know, there is a mandate. They have to listen to you. And you know, sometimes I tell people, hey, you know, as people of color, at least as, you know, like I'm half Mexican American, half Bolivian, and we're very humble people. Like, we've been taught like, hey, you know, don't rock the boat, don't speak up, don't, you know, do what you're told, you know, but sometimes I say to my students, hey, you know, pretend you're white. Like, how would a white person handle that?
Yeah,
like, they would be polite, but they would not give up, and they'd be there. And if they are if their emails are not getting listened to, they'll show up at city council and they'll give their 3-minute speech, and everyone will hear about it. So just, you know, just model that. You know, they've shown us a great path of what, you know, empowered entitlement looks like, and you can, you know, use that in a constructive way. I think.
Oh, yeah, it's called, you come at it with the confidence of a mediocre white man.
Ah!
That's the phrase.
Oh yes, that's it.
Just gonna be
That's
like,
one.
you know.
I think we can do that. I can do
And
that.
I'm also realizing now, as someone who has all this power because I can sew, that some requests I don't like, I start yelling at them, and they're like begging. They're like, "Please, mistress, can I have my mask? I'll Venmo you more." And I'm like, I don't want your. One guy asked for 6 masks. I don't know what the fuck he needed 6. You know, I can pay you. Kept using like very transactional language, and I didn't like it because I had a line of nurse waiting, and he said, and then he apologized and he said, "Can I give you money?" I said, "I don't want your money," and I was just like,
and his head went.
What? Good luck talking to people like this and trying to get your mask. But
So how many masks have you made as an individual and with your collective?
only like 100. I mean, I'm telling you, it's not a fact. I moved from sewing to operations. I think the operation at large is maybe just under 1,000. But I've also supplied for a bunch of groups that I have no idea what they put out. I will say, like, and this question keeps going, how many? And it's not going to be a huge and impressive number because it's a slow process to home sew. And I think that, like, that's what we need to respect here is I have a lot of volunteers that have volunteered in different capacities, cutting and sewing, but you know, that's what needs to be understood about this work. It's not, we're not professional factory workers with professional factory equipment. And that is what's so profound about this movement is just how slow this is. My friend who has a whole setup, she's turning out 33 a day. That's a lot. That is a lot, but it's not a lot in the scope of what's needed, right? So that's why when people who are non-essential are asking for a huge amount of masks, you have to respect that this is a few hours of a volunteer's time that you are asking for, and that you're trying to put a number on, which we refuse to take as profit, right? So anyway, I began to transition away from those personal requests because they were pissing me off so much.
Yeah, and it's a life or death thing for the people who actually need the masks.
What's that?
It's a life or death thing for the people who actually need the masks.
Yeah, and so for us, we've now more factories like the Garment Worker Center, like I said, and there's an athletic company in Buena Park, and I can put those 2 in the chat if you want to pass that on to people. And I vetted both, and they both are paying workers fairly and making sure they work in a safe way. But now that those systems are set up, because they weren't a week ago, because even the athletic company was set up, but no one knew about them. I'm trying to just pass on to those workers, and so that we can just focus the volunteer time on what's most needed. And I don't have to feel so bitter about, you know, being up in the middle of the night for somebody who's just got my masks on a pile in the corner because they're too lazy to clean them, you know? So.
Yeah. So who is doing work right now that inspires you, that you want to give a shout out to people?
I mean, right, because my brain is goldfish brain and it can only think every 5 minutes. The people working with me, I have people like Valerie So, she's an award-winning documentary filmmaker. She teaches at San Francisco State. She's sewing, right? I have Gail Issa, who is the founding director of the Asian Arts Initiative, and left that organization after 25 years and bought their building. You know, she didn't buy it with her money, but she raised the money to buy their building so they could be. And she's my care coordinator, right? I have people Leilani Chan, who has a theater company right now. She's sewing. To me, these people are my heroes because they will do this humbling work to support people. And I think that's what this is about. You're not above anybody right now. Like this, we are all equalized by this. We all get out of this show at the same time. The doors are locked. And to me, like, people are willing to like deliver meals despite having at one point done international tours or whatever. Like, that's who's inspiring to me. Not, you know, I can't even think beyond the world before all this, where there were works that moved me. But what moves me are the people who are willing to put all that ego aside to do this critical work that's necessary. And, you know, I'm complaining like, I can't believe I'm going to make this civilian a mask because they're asking for way too many masks. But like, that's not about my ego right now. That's me thinking about like how I'm really seeing the breadth of the situation from here. Like I play God every day. When we have 12 masks and that's all the masks we were able to make that day. And I'm looking at a list and I'm trying to decide between the domestic violence clinic and the homeless shelter, you know? So when, you know, someone who is not at risk as much as asking for half of that, I'm just like, but that to me, those are the heroes I'm thinking of, is all these artists that my friend Kiki Stash, who has who's making the 33 masks a day, right? She jumped on it right away. She's like, I can't sell vintage clothes right now. I can't design vintage clothes right now. I got to make these for these heroes right now.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't know if it's the artists right now as much as it is like really understanding what kind of work is heroic. That to me is inspiring. That this Postmates person who was delivering food so they cannot get evicted from their home, that is heroic work. It's not capitalist as much as it's like, you know, farm workers, like you said, like the people.
And all those folks need masks too, and
Yeah,
don't
all
have
need
them. You know, I know some Postmates people that don't have masks. They can't find any. So I'm thinking of doing some rounds of masks just for like my senior neighbors, for the Postmates kids,
absolutely
for some artists. There's some artists that, you know, they can't. I mean, everybody's gigs canceled. Everybody's really hurting financially.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can't afford to go to Etsy and buy a mask.
Yeah,
you know?
and I will take those requests if you have absolutely no money. Please make yourself known. I might be a little cranky and like I might be screening you a little, like, are you a first responder? What's the deal here? But I at this point, like, there's enough donations coming in that I don't want you to buy yourself out of the situation and try to like shove all this money in my face and offer to drive by for a mask, because that's not what this is about. Like, I don't, you know, it's really understanding we're in this together and who's most affected, and where it's just like racism. You can, like, it's about ceding privilege and ceding space to those like that are least heard. Like at this moment, this is the moment if you're like, okay, I'm inside, I'm going to cede my mask right now, my N95 that's in my closet, to a hospital worker, right? This is that same dynamic.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, when you get to talking about rural communities, how do we reach them also? You know, I think that your message would be really inspirational, because there are probably people there where they don't have accurate or adequate hospital density or healthcare or healthcare workers.
Well, if we're talking about farm workers, even before all this, they didn't, and restaurant workers, they didn't have sick days. They didn't have healthcare. And now that's finally coming into the conversation.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Like they're being triply exploited now because they're having to work under these conditions.
And going back to the democracy of thinking of a better solution, finding a better system, you know, the MAGA types, they want to know how great America is, and we point out that there's all these other systems that do things a little better and also people more. But in terms of the undocumented population, Portugal was granted temporary full citizenship to all the undocumented people during the crisis, because they know that, that they're going to need the same help, same services in this country. If you don't have a social security number, if you didn't file taxes, you're not getting a penny. You know, so when we go back to our representatives, we need to do our research, find out what works in other countries, because, maybe it's extra work for them, but it's extra benefit for all of us. You know, and somebody needs to start that dialogue. And what do you think about people in rural communities? What do you have to say to them that might feel isolated, during this time?
Let me make you a mask, I guess, if you're watching and you're in the rural community. But I don't know what to say. Other than I hope that this becomes a big wake-up call, that we are all connected, and that we need to understand how to support each other. Because, I mean, conversations like this had happened around living wage, right? Or like, what's the point if someone, if a single mother can't pay her bills and she's getting evicted? How do we all win? Same situation. If someone gets sick, and they have what's the, in this situation when something's so contagious and doesn't care if you're rich or poor, what's the point?
But also,
what's the point of letting people get sick and die?
but also the interconnectedness when that single mother that gets evicted worked in a hotel or helped raise somebody's kids or did some other essential work that people took for granted, you know?
Yeah.
I think we're struggling with a sense of social obligation also. You know, our cities are built in a very compartmentalized way. We don't really have central plazas. Our built environment is very impersonal. We're not really encouraged to get to know our next door neighbors. And I think we really need to turn that around. And I think we are turning that around in this health crisis because we do need each other. And we see that, the reality of that. And so I think people are reaching out, they're connecting, they're swapping produce, you know, they're checking in on each other, making masks for each other. And so that's kind of a beginning of an opening and a window to perhaps a different world, a whole different way of socializing and of relating to each other. So keeping that little glimmer in mind, what do you dream, like if you could dream of how things should be, what would Kristina Wong's dream for America be? Dream it. Dreaming is free.
Is it okay to just dream that we can be in a world again where it's not dangerous to gather? That's like the biggest thing. I found myself going, man, I can't wait till I can watch a really shitty play reading or bomb in front of an audience where the guy in the front row keeps mumbling, what did she just say? Like, I just, like, that's how low the bar is. Like, I just want to be I want to be inside a terrible show. But you know what is really cool about this is like how many people I see stepping up in the mask world and reaching out and offering to pay for meals, and not like pay like rich free food, but like, but I am witnessing all these gestures of support and kindness, and I feel like I am connecting to people in this way, even though I'm just throwing fabric into their car and then running away. And having these kind of brief interactions with people I would never meet otherwise. And we keep saying to each other, I can't wait till we can just sit down at a table and get to know each other. And I feel like I'm bonded with all these other aunties in a way that, like, I just imagine, like, when this is all over, that we will be hugging and laughing and just sort of, and that to me is the most exciting thing, is that there is no, I feel like a lot of filters, like, because sometimes when I talk to artistic directors, in the back of my head, I'm like, book me, book me, book me. And now I just have no fucking filters because I'm exhausted. And I'm just like, man, this fucking sucks right now. I feel like I'm running a nonprofit theater company making these masks. You know, I'm just so like, because in my mind, there might not be theater anymore. And so I'm just like letting down all my guards of being pretend nice or, or having ulterior motives. And I think that is sort of teaching me something about a way to be in this moment, is like, what does this mean? If this is the end, what do you really fucking care about? And how can you behave from that? You know, that sort of honesty of the heart, right? I mean, as long as you're a good person that doesn't really want to kill people at the heart of it, right? Which I've learned I'm not, except if they ask for too many masks. But I think that's what Dreamocracy is something. I'm also seeing people just like not, like, someone wrote me a check for $1,000 a day for this project. Just sort of this generosity of that feels like people aren't attached to their stuff so much, and they just want to give it if it can help. And I just think that's what Dreamocracy is this sort of ever-flowing generosity, whether it's financial or checking in or money or time or making something for somebody, which I guess is what I'm doing, you know. That's this weird thing that I think that's been captured in this moment is if not for this crisis context, that I am witnessing a generosity that I've never seen before outside the situation.
Yeah, and honestly, to follow up on that, you know, after 3 years of the most selfish, greedy, corrupt kind of message coming out of Washington, it was amazing how quickly people came together to unite for a common purpose. Because, you know, to make things happen, like the stimulus package Congress passed, not ideal, but they came together. They could have made that another battleground. McConnell could have stood his ground. You know, one representative from Florida could stop the whole process. But they all came together, and I think that we're seeing people do that as well. Hopefully, that will allow, as we get into society and all these other questions and interactions, people see you know, they're saying, oh, when you're forced, I went to Costco today, and the line was like 90 people deep because they're doing social distancing. So people are waiting probably an hour, hour and a half to get in just to get food. They're going to see people around them they never were given the time of day to. And they're all in the same boat. And Costco's great because it's almost like United Nations, you know. It's people of every, you know, culture go shop at Costco. And so it's interesting to look at because they're all so many of us in the same situation. But for the last 2 years, I wouldn't have expected that. You know, the gun violence we had, you know, like I said, corruption. But the people still at heart, you know, are capable of just doing that, being empathetic, being a community. And we were talking about what do you see if like this is the end, and if it's not the end, you know, we need both. So get the people out there. We're talking about the young kids, trying to get them out there.
I think it's also about the energy you bring into it, because are you bringing like, you know, like, oh, this is such an annoyance. Oh, I just want to get back to my old life. I don't think we are going to be going back to like this identical reality we had before we entered.
Before, though.
I think things are transforming. It's kind of like Journey to Ixtlan. Once you leave that place, it disappears. You can't go back there. Like, we're going to a new place together. I think it's very important that we guard the energy that we're bringing into this. Are we carrying hopeful, like, let's try to build something better so it never gets this bad again? Or are we just going to view this as like a depressing annoyance? I think it's important that we are very conscious of the energy that we're bringing forward into the cycle. It's almost like a sacred ritual or a ceremony that we're all globally, collectively walking through this ceremony together. We're all experiencing very similar things. We're all, you know, here in our homes. We're all kind of under this kind of house arrest. We're all, you know, having to deal with our, you know, aunties and grannies and, you know, and each other in ways that we didn't have to before. And with ourselves, we're facing our own shadow selves too in this.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think as creative people, we need to keep creating. We need to respond to this moment, to create work that inspires people, that lets them know they're not alone. I post a lot of jokes on the internet, and a lot of times people will tell me, you know, I'm glad that you said that because I thought, you know, that I was crazy. And then you see the same thing, and it really came together. But speaking of jokes, I wrote one that I wanted to work in, so I'm just going to say it now because I couldn't work in the conversation. Is that I'm working on a new series called The Quarantines, about a group of teenagers who fight crime while practicing responsible social distancing. So it's across Scooby-Doo and No Fucking Cats. So quarantine for it. All right.
The quarantine gang. All right. Woo.
That's the sound of a joke dying right there.
Yeah.
So we have some people that want to ask questions. So I'm going to open up to Q&A since we are mindful.
There's also a comment, by the way, from Nicole that I think that you should acknowledge because
yes. So we're going to open it up to questions on the chat because of Zoom bombing. We've disabled the microphone. So if you have a question for Kristina, please type it in the chat. We'll get to it. The first one is from Nicole. So much love and respect, but need to speak to the protesting comment. The City Council of Mayor of LA have failed to listen to its constituents the past couple of weeks. Last Friday, there was total 2 hours of comment and more than 1,000 online comments submitted to ask for a moratorium and then more forgiveness. They failed the whole city. When people are terrified of losing their homes, they will have no other choice than to try and get their voice heard. Our city tried to go through bureaucracy, and it didn't work. Democracy should be relying on this process. The question is, how do we really hold our elected officials accountable? Well, I mean, one thing I'll say is, again, make it performative, make it last, put it on the net, because that system is designed when 1,000 people show up and they've got 2 hours, they can't respond to it. But if you take it to the press, take it to, if you have a stronger idea, it'll get it out there. But if you try to make it go through their door or fit in their box, you know, play by their rules, it's not going to happen. You got to play by your rules. And as artists, we play by a different set of rules. So we have to do what we feel is effective. So find a way to channel that energy into something visible that, you know, like if you take it to the news media, 100,000 people will see it and then start calling the council. If you wait for 3 hours, you know, 50 people are going to speak and everyone's going to go home. What do you think, Kristina?
Well, like I had said, like once you get a hold of somebody, you've got to figure out how to work with them. But before that point, public shaming is not a bad thing. But like once you are working with them and like you got to lay off the public shaming part and try to work as a team. And I'm basically basing this off my whole toilet situation. Like, I could sit and shame Herb Wesson's office all day long, and I have, but like, once I got this one person from his office cell number, I was like, hey buddy, let's do this. And that attitude, I think it's shifting. You know, it's the shaming thing freaks him out, and then but once you open the door to work with them, you know, you don't have to be their best friend or like them, but just.
And I think also one thing that we've seen, you have to look at what motivates them. Generally, a council person has got a lot of pressure against some developers, police, you know, these are special interests, and they don't want to look bad. So if you find a solution that helps them make them look good, I'm not saying pander to them, but just like, if your solution to make them look good and it's a good solution, then they're more likely to do it if your solution is going to get them flack from like 10 other sides.
Yeah.
Just be conscious of that.
I also think there's a lot of of power between doing the work, you know, so you might have a solution, but if you actually map it out and the steps, you know, like, hey, this is how this solution works, you know, step 1, step 2, this is, and you actually give them, not just to the elected, but to the staff. You know, people don't realize, well, you know, you just mentioned city staff, like, they have more power than politicians even, because elected officials are only there for a very short window, but city staffers are there for 30 years. They're there for decades.
Wow.
So if you, and they're always overworked, you know, they always have like multiple hats, you know, that they're wearing, and there's always cutbacks, and they're doing everybody's job. So if you can do a lot of their work for them, a lot of the legwork, you know, like you assemble the coalition. I always tell people when here, they're like, well, we want to have this thing saved. It's like, well, then let's build a formal coalition of community members, because one person, one council member, one resident, they can't get it done. But you build a coalition of people, a formal coalition, and then you do the Roman pincer. You appeal from the inside and you appeal from the outside. You go to the press, you go to the staff. Go to the press, you go to the staff, and eventually you will Roman pincer that solution together, I think.
Yeah.
But it takes work. You got to do the legwork. You can't just complain.
And you have to go to them. You have to go to their office hours. You have to like get in their faces, and
with respect.
And be a persistent presence, but again, to be a resource, because a lot of times when we've gone to officials to ask for change, they'll say, "Oh, it's never going to happen. No one does that." But if you go
and then they'll say, "Go away."
Yeah, but if you show them that it can happen, like if we go to our American politicians and say, "We need to make the undocumented immigrants citizens so they get health care," and they'll say, "Oh, that'll never happen." We say, "They did it in Portugal. Look, right here."
They did it here in freaking the 80s. Reagan, you know, legalized everybody. The Republicans
did show them that it's possible, then they can't deny that it's.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll do that. I'll find the same thing people want done here, and I'll find a similar city that has similar demographics, and you know, contact that city, their staff, and make the connection and say, "Hey, my city doesn't think this is possible, but I saw you guys did it. So let's get those rainbow crosswalks made, because I know it's possible."
Symbolic gestures matter, both like examples, but like, yeah, we voted to abolish ICE. Do you know how powerful that is to say that in Koreatown, the neighborhood council voted to abolish ICE? Mm-hmm. Like, just to say that is a step, right? It's a rock. You know, and so I don't know what that looks like right now when we can't gather, but and I'll think on it, but like it's not even going to be a symbol anymore. The reality is a bunch of people are going to be evicted on the street. So they're going to have to fucking do something about it. And I fear they're not, because the city is so goddamn slow, even with logical shit like that. So what is next? Great tent out? I don't know what we do.
Yeah, and somebody pointed out that I think half of the city council is in the mayor or landlord. So you find out what properties they own. Get some window out there and have a discussion. Yeah. Ron from San Antonio says, de Tocqueville looked at the right to assemble for political goals as a fundamental thing that prevents the tyranny of majority. With COVID-19 possibly lasting 2 years, how do you think this will change America?
I have never heard this 2-year thing. That's scary.
It's supposed to leave and come back in another wave, and then leave and come back again next year. So it's supposed to leave in July and come back in October. I guess that was the same pattern as the Spanish flu, which is the last big global pandemic. And the second time around, it was even more lethal. I don't know if you heard that it can trigger heart attacks and stuff. But eventually, everyone will kind of get exposed to it, so then it'll just peter out because everyone will have a resistance to it at some level. So we're kind of in it for a while.
Yeah, and we don't have to wait 2 years to find an answer to that question, because it's only been 2 weeks and they're already, arresting people for going out and, assembling on the street. Like in LA, they said you can't meet with more than 5 people on the street, and then they changed it to 2 people. It's illegal to meet with more than 2 people, one person on the street. And now they just arrested a surfer, for going out by himself, charging $1,000 fines. And like I said, the bar is talking about, arresting people without charging, holding them indefinitely. So you don't need 2 years to see how this started. The answer is you have to keep fighting back. You have to let them know that this is not acceptable. Write your congresspeople, go to their office hours, let them know that the response is visceral and real, because otherwise they'll chip away and they'll do it. So the answer, I think, Ron, is, and you have to find new ways of meeting like this here, is a new way of meeting. We wouldn't have been having this kind of conversation if it wasn't a response to reality. But we're able to connect with people all over the country now, which is a plus. Even though it would be nice to be here in Southern California, with avocado toast and margaritas, watching the sunset over the Santa Monica. We can't do that. We're going to bring the conversation to you. So I think that's the answer. We've got to find new ways to meet and find new ways to interface with decision makers. While we still have internet for the next 4 weeks.
Yes. Thanks, Nicole. And I think Jose is trying to get in, Victor.
Yeah, I'm trying to help him get in, but he's okay. So Nicole has to go. Love you guys. Thank you for this. Okay, and then Brian Feldman says 18 months until a working vaccine. So I think, I don't know how to translate that other than say
it's over a year. 18 months is more than
18 months of mask
12
now. So
yeah.
I think you're going to want to apply for one of those small business association loans.
Maybe we'll have a Mask of the Month club.
Yeah.
It'll be one of those like subscription boxes.
Yeah.
You can get hand sanitizer.
I'm like, okay, at what point do I turn off the charity hat and this actually has to become a business? Because at first I was like, okay, I'll just do this for a month. And now I'm like, I might have to go get a job at a factory to make these because I have no income otherwise.
Well, there's no shame in monetizing. There's no shame in covering your costs. And I think knowing the good that you do, there's no shame in, because again, that's one of the things we talk about economy. Is it the people that make the money? They say, oh, if you don't pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, you're a failure. Well, they don't tell you that they stole those boots off of somebody else.
Yeah.
Took their land, they took them, they said, these are nice boots. So
you're telling me to colonize, is that
right?
Okay.
I also thought it was very sophisticated. I think it was some New Yorker that was, reacting to being told that, that people couldn't go to work and, and that they were going to lose income. And there was some New Yorker on camera was saying, well, how are you going to compensate me for this, shortfall in revenue? And it was like, whoa, I wouldn't even thought to ask the city, how are you going to compensate me for complying with this order? Wow, dang, New York, that's something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So at a certain level, I think we do have to ask for some sustainability. Maybe it is time for universal income. Maybe it is time, for that level of sustenance. I mean, Andrew Yang, ran on it. He did the numbers. And, I think we really need to look at all options to find solutions, because we're not playing it safe. It's our lives on the line. We need to think out of the box. We're artists. We're innovators. We've never had a straight path somewhere. We've always had to, find our own way, go around it, go over it, go under it. And I think, this is what we're dealing with now. Now we're in a situation where that's survival. Survival is having to really find a way in that is not clearly defined,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on the issue of affordable housing. That's another thing, maybe for another conversation. But there's so many vulnerable people right now, but there were more vulnerable people before that didn't have housing. They're really tough buying, And the new California moratorium on evictions and foreclosures, you need to file within 7 days of your rent being due. Writing.
Folks, you have 7 days. Remember that.
Yeah, writing to your landlord saying that I can't pay my rent because of COVID-19. If you don't do that, then you're out of luck.
Then you're not covered by the state, by the state moratorium. And I think now you only have like 4 days, maybe 4 or 5 days, depending on when rent was due.
Does it matter if your immigration status? If you
It doesn't matter. It's just you have to notify your landlord. If you sublet a room, then that would be like your sublet, whoever you pay rent to, you have to write a written, or your mortgage company, a written letter stating that you're experiencing hardship because of the COVID crisis. And so you're going to call upon that moratorium protection. It's like incantations.
But it's best to Google it because there's a lot at stake. So best to get the correct facts. Rob has a question. If COVID is expecting to turn in October, how do you think it will affect the presidential election as well as local and state elections? And what can we do as artist activists? Kristina.
I did not know this, that I was going to go away because I don't know. I am already like beginning to panic because I didn't know about this 2-year thing. So I'm just like, oh wait. I decided on for this. Sorry, I'm in trauma right now.
Okay.
What can we do about it as artists, activists? I have no idea. How will it affect the election? I don't think it's going to help Trump, but who knows? Because people are dumb and they'll believe anything. And I think it's hard because we can't rally. We're just watching candidates on Zoom. And I think the scary thing is sometimes people just vote for who they see the most. And if it's going to be Joe Biden, which it very much looks like it is, I haven't seen much of him. And I haven't seen him much showing that he's a leader. That would vote.
Well, the big thing that we're talking about today is that the Democrats want, I think, online voting, and the Republicans are against it. So there's more areas where it can mess up, but I think, the Republicans have really worked hard to create barriers for voting, and this, to them, is another barrier to keep people from going to the polls, which benefits them. So back to your question, what can you do? The first thing is you can organize and inform. The second thing is you can run for office yourself. The local elections are really, really important, especially school board, and that's a big battle. And the school districts often have more money than the cities.
School district here has a bigger budget than the city budget. That's crazy, but they do.
So, but you've got to, as an artist, keep your message out there, but you keep sending it out there so other people will see it, but also send resources so that when questions come up, they get it from the source. I think that we have pretty good as artists intuition about how to cut through things, but direct people to the right source of information, that's, I think, more powerful right now than any opinion.
And I think we have a question about, do we have, is it online or mail-in voting in California? I know in Orange County, every single registered voter gets an absentee ballot mailed to them. So everybody here has that ability to vote from their home. I don't know how it is in Los Angeles.
You have to sign. I thought I had to sign up for the absentee ballot.
You might. I mean, in Orange County, you don't anymore. It's just automatic. Everybody gets one.
Yeah, and I think LA and Orange County switched to voting centers instead of polling places.
Andrea says that in New Jersey, they're being encouraged to vote by mail.
Yeah. No, I think that they're going to have to look at other strategies. Again, it's going to take time for the information to get down. People might not know when they need to vote by. They might lose their ballot. They might, because if you lose the ballot that they send you, it's harder to vote, because they have to verify that you're you. And in Mexico, they just, they're notorious for just throwing away, boxes full of ballots, that show up somewhere in a landfill after the election. So, but the thing is we're going to need to build new systems for new reality. I think artists are going to have a big role in knowing what's possible.
Performance artists for politics. Yes.
I don't know. I'm so thrown by this conversation because I think you're very pro working within the lines of government, and I'm sitting here both as a member of government thinking, wow, the government has totally failed us, and I know why, because it's so slow and so bureaucratic. Like even the city of LA contracts to do the 5 million masks. It's going to take there's a vendor I've been recommending to people who's in Buena Park. He pays everyone fairly, but he can't get that city contract because he's outside the city of LA. And it's like, and he's ready to go. He's pumping out 1,000 a day, but he can't. It's like these weird, sometimes like we need to be able to work without these city things so we can just get the
bureaucracy.
People. Yeah. And so I don't know. I think it is about taking the reins, because what I'm doing right now is not part of my duty as a elected official. And people are like, I'm going to vote for you for the next thing you run for. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like this is who I usually am, is go rogue. Like, it is important to run for office, but I think you also have to just do that shit where you go rogue and just say shit, do shit, make stuff without the institutions.
Brian from DC says, this is one of those times I wish the rest of the country was more like DC. You can register to vote here on election day.
That's changing now in different cities. I think in LA now you can do that. You can show up with an ID. And I don't know if it's a provisional ballot that they maybe look at if there's a tie or what, but you can do that in some more cities in DC.
Yeah. And deep down, I know Mexico could help us in that mask situation. So we just got to eat up the rhetoric. Do we have more?
I think that's it.
Is that it? Everyone having a good time?
Can we video in? Does anyone want to do a video question so we don't have to just look at each other's faces? Someone want to?
Let me see if I can do the grid view to show you who's all left in the conversation here. Hi, everybody. We got Jeffrey Chavez, Ron Garcia,
Hey!
Who will be our guest next week? So you got to come back next week for Miss Peña at 6 o'clock. Andrea Orlando, Linda Gonzalez, Aaron De Leon, Skip Snow. We got a few more people on, but you guys just kicked off the DREAMOCRACY in America conversation. You guys are the heroes. You're like the seed that will go out and transform the country. I love your background, Rob. I think it's great. I'm not sure if that's a digital background or if that's your actual background. If you're like in Nova Scotia or something. Oh, we have Alexis de Tocqueville. Do we have a word from Alexis de Tocqueville?
I'm doing research. I'm here next time.
Yes.
You can ask me.
Alexis de Tocqueville is our digital response to Alexis de Tocqueville. So if you notice, resemble dubbing a copyright violation to Alexa. That's the idea. So Alexa will be back next time with more insight and conversation. But she just thought that she would show up and announce her presence to the world. All right. Teresa Caballero, what do you think about Rahm Emanuel's book about
I'm back.
entity? Rahm Emanuel's book.
I never read it. Sorry.
Never read it.
I'm too busy sewing.
We'll have to look at Rahm Emanuel's book, but also look up the Radical Cram Schools. If you are at home and you have children at home, you're Radical School.
Or for your inner child.
Your inner child. It's funny. It's really inventive. It's, I dare say,
it's hilarious. It's radical.
And pithy.
It's charming.
Charming and pithy. But great production values, a lot of fun. And had this coronavirus not come, Kristina would have been, touring that and during her Kristina Wong
for public office. Yes.
Now I have to write a new show called How I Built a Sweatshop in 10 Days. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the show's obsolete.
That's the one. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure. You kicked
I'm
this
really
off.
impressed how many people showed up. I guess you have nowhere else to be on. Is it Thursday?
We got a good chunk of people, and we're going to archive everybody. We're going to archive this whole conversation on YouTube so that you can forward it out to folks and review it. Listen to it as you drift off to sleep. So, as you meditate, as you do yoga.
We hope you felt inspired. I want to recommend some of the videos that Kristina's done online. I think you were interviewed when they did a study about ethnic preference in dating, which is really funny.
That's on my YouTube channel. It's why men prefer Asian babes. I think you'll find it that way.
Yes.
And Latinos were a close second, so you all know.
Yeah. Just like voting, baby. Just like voting. Close second.
Yeah.
Close second.
All of the Radical Cram schools, the videos she did from Uganda, the rap videos.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And,
you can look those up on YouTube. They're hilarious. They're very engaging and inspiring.
And Wong Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is available as a DVD, right?
A DVD if you can find one, but you can rent it on Vimeo.
Oh, so Vimeo.
Yeah, so I don't have to go to the post office and mail my. Yeah, it's on Vimeo. If you go to flyingwong.com, you should hit the link.
All right.
You can watch a younger, less stressed out version of me doing a show about depression. Yay!
And that was a Creative Capital Award-winning project. So Creative Capital is also is part of our project.
Creative Capital.
They do great work. And support them to one organization support. They're doing good work in the country. Getting expression out, helping artists do their work better, reach more audiences. They're donating to Creative Capital. Kristina Wong's website is Kristina Wong, Wong.com.
And her Venmo is?
Give Kristina Wong money, which I know sounds super shady, but it all goes to the face mask empire and supporting every face mask team in LA.
Yes.
Right now,
so if you want to be part of the wrong.
Yeah.
So
Not to be confused with the Wong thong. That's for the summer.
Yeah. If we are allowed to go out again.
yes. All right. So we want to dovetail this conversation into the realm of possibility and the future. So as you watch this in the future, I'm talking about future selves, make a difference, create democracy, and you have something important to contribute to save this world.
Excuse me.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what was that?
Oh no, it's a cough.
It's a cough. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. Put a mask on. Put a mask on.
All right, so maybe we'll be back next week. Maybe let's Pocha's mask for social
Some of them
distancing.
will do that.
We should take that out on the street when we go shopping. I think that'll be fun. Okay, all right. Good night, everybody. Have a wonderful
Good night, everybody.
See you next week, same time, 6 p.m. on Friday. Pacific time for Guillermo Gomez Peña.
Ooh, a legend, a genius. Bye.